Good morning, my name is Robert Sampson, and before we do our next painting, we've got some preparation work to do that will really make a magnificent difference. The reference picture we're going to use today is a beautiful picture of Faisal Mosque with streaming light and autumnal colors. It's an architectural feature, so we have to get the drawing right, and I'm going to show you two things that you have to do before we can paint together. One is we have to paint a background called a ground, and the second is to get those pencil marks right so that when we do the painting it's going to look in proportion. One of the techniques, and we're going to practice that this week, is to use a color on the canvas before you start with a very, very light wash. You can wash it in with a kerosene, you don't have to use anything expensive, and just let it sit for a day or two until it's completely dry, and then you're ready to paint. The advantage of doing this is that it ties all the colors in together. It gives a very nice united feel. Some of the landscape painters would do a kind of rosy red color underneath their ground that would radiate through and give a nice pulsating feeling. How do you do a ground? It's extremely easy to do. In fact, I keep a jar of paint ready for this. This is just kerosene and a little bit of the paint mixed in. This is just about finished, but I'll often have a lot of it. To make your own, choose a color that seems to fit with the painting that you're currently involved in. We're doing the lovely Faisal Juma, and it has a kind of yellowish or even orangey kind of background would work very nicely. A little bit of color, not too much, a lot of the solvent. Mix it up a wee bit. It doesn't have to be very even. I don't know if you can see that, it's really very weak. And then you can actually use paper to wash that on, or I like these very cheap brushes, 5 or 10 rupee brushes. They're good for making a ground. So in this case I'm just doing a yellow ground, yellow ochre, and I'm just washing it on, and I'm not too worried. It doesn't have to be super even because it's almost going to be invisible when you're done. Kind of like it a bit darker. Kind of even it out all the way to the end. When you finish, just brush it in one direction and you're done. You now have a ground. When the ground is completely dry, you're ready to do step 2. So here is this week's reference photograph, the beautiful Faisal Mosque. What makes this a fantastic, brilliant piece of architecture, apart from the lovely symmetry of itself, is the fact of the backdrop. It's the contrast between that striking white and often a very dark green background. Here, the image is nice in its composition because it's leading you in. You have to get these nice lines correct, otherwise it'll look wrong. The challenge is everybody knows what the Faisal Mosque looks like, so if you get the proportions or the dimensions wrong, it'll look wrong. It's rather like doing somebody's face. If you get the nose to one side or the eyes one up, one down, it'll look weird. So you have to get it architecturally accurate. It doesn't mean doing a detailed drawing, it means getting the proportions right. So after you've got your ground, you need to squint and look and see what these proportions are. Maybe take some measurements. Use a ruler if you have to get it straight. These columns have to be straight. If they're in different directions, it's also going to look weird. So you don't have to make a lot of marks in your sketch, but they have to be accurate proportionately. So take your time, do a really excellent job of the basic sketch. And you'll notice that it's tricky because these columns are at different heights. They're in 4 directions. The ones that are furthest away, these two, are significantly lower. I found it helpful to put a little spot mark with my charcoal to show where the heights were, and then also the proportions of this lovely building have to be accurate. Another thing about the sketch is the bits that you really like. I really like this window here with the trees and the light, yellow lights peeling through. I really want to keep that. It gives a nice balance to the man-made architecture. So take your time on those bits, and then just a few lines. Don't go overboard, no like heavy marking or anything. We're just trying to get the proportions right before we begin our painting. So when you come Friday at 5, inshallah, you will have a piece of canvas with some color on it. Yellowish is perfect. Maybe even a tiny bit of burnt umber mixed in, or even a bit of red mixed in with that, whatever you like. Just even one ground and then some pencil marks, and then we'll be all ready to start together.